out here to the little berry farm out here. I had somebody ask me to do a video on how to farm. So if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna take a couple minutes and just explain it out here real quick, and then I can clip it from this video and post it on YouTube form or whatever. But why? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. This is my favorite build layout. You got double layers, sort of 8 boxes on each side. Nothing crazy. And it can be upgraded. You can go up with it and add more floors or whatever. I need those. I need to clone some berries too. But there's some tricks in these. I don't have God clones. If I look at the stats on these, you'll see it's YGGGYX. When growing, you really want 3 Gs, 3 Ys. That's the fastest, highest yielding, average, for any berry. But I've got it on both blue and yellow. You can use like crossbreeder and punch in a bunch of different breeds. I usually get a bunch of seeds and try to find my best one, and typically I find a 3G 2Y or a 3Y 2G, and I just stick with that. From start to finish, a 3G 2Y will take an hour and 15 minutes from once you plant. In these double stacked ones, it's kind of hard to see in there, but it's not a big deal. Because there's a trick to planting. Not a lot of people know about. Like, if you go to plant, it wants to plant one at a time, but if you click your LT, once you have a blue one, it's going to light the whole planter box up. And so by holding LT and then clicking, it plants the whole planter box, and it'll do the same up top. See, if I look up there, there's plants all up there. So what I do is run around. The biggest thing is, whether you're doing hemp or berries or whatever, obviously is water. The optimal water level for most everything is honestly between like 4,000 and 6,000. These, once I point out a berry, you'll see it'll show at the bottom light water, ground, and temp. The water's at 75% because technically it, maxed out. Nothing's been planted since yesterday. It's at 75%. But that'll only slow it down maybe 5 minutes. The other item is if you open up a planter box, you can put fertilizer in here. If I take the fertilizer out, you'll see that the ground, it's already been picked up. But anyways, the ground will be at 75% instead of 100. So that's actually, a big thing. Where do you get fertilizer if you don't know? The horses that run around that you can buy at the ranch and you can find hanging around, you take them back, you feed them, and they will shit. And you take that, you put it into a composter. A lot of people don't know you can sell fertilizer at Bandit for scrap. It's a way to get some scrap also. But having fertilizer in your planter boxes takes away about 15 minutes in a grow. So these are, I've got 6 yellows, so and I've got yellow berries already, so one of these rows I'm just gonna take clones of. Um, but it takes about, the 3G plant will take about 10 minutes to go from to where I can clone them. Um, but yeah, it's actually pretty simple. And I've got water pumps outside that feed into this. If you're on a freshwater stream, you don't need a water purifier. You can pump right into a barrel, or you can pump right to your sprinklers, whatever you want to do. Some people use barrels just to store. But this is a water purifier. It's needed because I'm on the ocean. It brings in salt water, which if you look at the little image, has little specks in it. It says salt water. Purifies it, brings it over here. Now the water drop is clear. So it's good to drink. It's nice to have just to fill up, I have water also, you fill up water jugs, stuff like that. But there's different tricks for sprinklers. If you build the farm base, one sprinkler on the ceiling will actually water 4 planter boxes. Put it dead in the crosshair of them. This is a trick I learned, spraying them out like this on the side builds. You really got to make sure that they're centered. These are off just a hair. But as you can see, one's getting a little bit, less water than the other. Well, they're all maxed out right now. But I mean, once they're filled up, it's usually fine. But in the beginning, getting them going, if they're off center just a little, it may have a 20% difference. But I ran into a base, actually not far from here, and the dude literally had the space maybe. It's probably this big, maybe one more, it may have been, one more row. And, in the top of his base was a berry farm. And without exaggerating, the guy had probably 60 sprinklers all over the ceiling. Obviously, really didn't know what he was doing, but yeah, if you're planting just a little 2x2, area, one sprinkler in the top will work just fine. If you want to grow you can take out one of these sides and just grow on one and just spread them out like this. It'll water both. And this isn't, this one's watering these over here. These are watering the ones behind it. So you can, two sprinklers. As far as lights go, in this configuration, you need a light per 2 planter boxes. One there, one here. If you have them in like a 2x2 area, you can actually put one light kind of in the middle, and it bleeds out and waters or feeds light to all 4 planter boxes. With this setup, I can actually put 4 more planter boxes in the middle, and the lights and the sprinklers actually do a good job of doing it, so I could have 20 planter boxes, but I typically stick with 16. It lets me have teas for myself, and also lets me have teas to sell in Vendies. We got about 4 minutes, and then I can clone these. Clone this bottom row, and then I can go run off and do something else. But yeah, so this takes very little power. I mean, I do have some turrets on the roof, but I think this takes I have 2 pumps outside, which I'll show you. One was just struggling. Got one right here, wouldn't fit inside. There's the other one. Usually I put them inside, but once it's down, the foundations, it wouldn't let me put two down. Um, this is all running off solar panels. I have my turrets up here, but four solar panels run this, keep this whole thing more than enough for just the farm. I got the other four for the turrets, and other than that, you know, there's like four phases in the grow of any plant. It's like, you know, you go through them. It starts at seedling, and then it goes up to, I think, sapling. And then it goes through its crossbreed phase. So there's five, technically. Now in the crossbreed, if you have different genetic plants planted near each other, they're going to change their genetics. That's why I said, like I said, there's actually a website, Rust Crossbreeder, and you can punch in all your different genetics. I got it right here, YYGGGX, and it'll show you how to get what's called a God clone, which is 3 Ys, 3 Gs. If you get the right genetics, you know, every time you plant a seed, you know, it's going to give you a few different ones, or give you, you know, each seed will give you a different genetics. You can just sit there and punch them in if you want. Like I said, I kind of go the lazy way. On your genetics, you have Ys, Gs, H's. Those are green. The Y is yield, G is growth rate, the H is hardiness. So like if you live in the snow or if you live in the desert, you know, having an H in there, it isn't a bad thing. It helps it against temperatures and you know, lower water, stuff like that. So, you know, that's not a bad thing. There's also red W's and red X's. The red X's mean absolutely nothing. It's just a dead spot. So having one isn't really a bad thing. It's just you don't have a green H, G, or Y. But there's also the red W. What the red W means is each plant is gonna use more water than say one without the W, red W. So, you know, with that being said, I always try to avoid the red W's because they'll drain, you know, going through a whole growth, they can drain a plant, you know, you get a whole, you know, 9 plants in a planter box with extra, you know, water consumption. And, you know, they'll drain planter boxes of water pretty quick. All right, so here we're going to, you know, these are all ready for cloning. I'm a little low on my yellows clones, so I'm going to go ahead, click. I want to clone all, so I'm going to take them, hold X, let go, choose what you want. You can eat them if you want. They're not going to give you anything. Take a clone that's just going to do one, harvest all. That would harvest the whole box if it's ready, and clone all. I want to clone all. So. You know, pretty simple. You know, I got 114 clones. You know, typically I'll run a batch of clones, but I've got a bunch of yellow berries inside, extras, so I'm not going to clone my blues right now. Actually, that's a lie. I can clone them over here. And there's that. You know, but yeah, so we were talking about the phases. You have seedling, sapling, then crossbreed, and then you have mature, and then you have fruiting. Fruiting is when the actual berries start to, you know, really, or hemp, whatever you're growing, you know, begin to increase. And then after fruiting comes ripe. Now, once these plants, whether it's berries, hemp, or whatever, all hit ripe 0%, you can pick them. They're no longer going to grow, get any more berries, put out any more hemp. You don't have to wait until ripe 100%. Excuse me. So, basically once they hit ripe, I harvest them. I don't sit there and wait. After ripe, once it hits ripe 100%, like if you log off or whatever and you forget to pick your berries, once it hits ripe 100%, then they begin to die. And they die rapidly after that. So, if you got a good clone, like these are about an hour and 15 minutes start to finish. We're 12 minutes in. So we got a little over an hour before these are able to be harvested. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of farming. If anybody has any questions, they can ask, post some comments or whatnot. Like I told people before, I'm doing this on a live, but I'm gonna splice this from a live and put it on, into videos. So I've had some people ask me about it.